Okay, welcome to the live stream. As we're hearing this news today, we've never seen anything like it. And I've started looking into this because it started to pop up on the media all over the place. This is from European travel agents, and it's not just one or two, it's about a dozen travel agents, a dozen different countries. Travel agents. So there's all these different travel agents, thousands of them right throughout Europe, from the UK, France, Germany, Spain, all these different countries, and they're all saying the same thing, that all of their bookings, they say all, but it's more like 20 to 25% of their bookings right now are being cancelled to the United States. And I know predominantly my audience is a US audience here, but also a European audience, so I think you'll find this quite interesting. So I started digging into this to find out, well, why are 20-25% of people in Europe actually cancelling their what you would call a vacation or a holiday to the United States this year? Now, I started reading the media, which I never believe, but I thought that was quite interesting. They're saying, see, look, no one likes President Trump. No one likes him. No one wants to go to the USA anymore because of, you know, he's this really bad leader and all this other stuff. Actually, it's more to do with tariffs, partly. Very small part of it is tariffs. But the other part is predominantly made up of the fact that there is massive recession warnings right throughout the UK and Europe. And I mean flashing red recession warnings. They are getting more severe every single day. And I've got a lot of stuff to go over today. We're going to start with the US kind of stuff going on. We'll move over to the UK, a bit of Europe, and some more dystopian stuff that's going on. So let's quickly jump on the shared screen a second. European travel to the US dropped 17%. These are the official figures. And then even here, they're calling it Trump backlash. And foreigners are worried. Foreigners are worried they're going to get arrested. This is out of the Financial Times, this chart here, showing just how bad the drop is. And I thought it was interesting that the media was focusing on this is going to crash the US economy because of all of their tourism. Well, US economy is made up of about 2.5%. It fluctuates between about 2.4, 2.6% of their GDP is from tourism. So again, even if they lost 100% of tourists, is it going to make any difference? Not really. It's absolutely a tiny amount of their GDP. So if they're losing that said 17%, others say 25%. So even if it was the most extreme example, they're still only going to lose less than 1% of their GDP. I mean, and that would be an extreme example. So what else are they saying then is going on? The cancellation rate is the highest amongst French, German and British, who it says 40% from these groups. It's 40% from French, German and British are cancelling their trips in protest to who they always say Mr. Trump. They never say President Trump on these articles, which is interesting. Actually, that's not the reason at all. But these travel agents are saying it's unheard of. It's never happened before in a country at war. In a country where there was a security risk or a risk of health crisis, yes. But under this sort of circumstances, we've never seen anything like it. Another one, the CEO of a tour operator company, he said, in 30 years I've been in this business, I've never seen anything like this for any destination. Goes on to say the protest against the new leader of the USA is apparent. Well, again, they're connecting things together that aren't connected. This isn't just, you've got people it's the same in any country. You'll have people that do not like President Trump. It's just the way it is. In the same way that many of us did not like President Biden, right? It's just the way that we are. Some of us sit more right-leaning, others sit more left-leaning, some are more conservative, some are more liberal. It's just the way it is. So this whole thing the media is doing today doesn't really make any sense at all. So I want to get on to some of the other reasons then. that I found. Number one then will be political, climate and policy changes. There's a little bit of this, small amount. They're also running with these stories, The Independent's heavy on this at the minute, and BBC, saying that, in fact I can't even use the word, that the US has turned into a something state. We're streaming on YouTube here, of course, and it says, and it gives one example of a man coming in from Australia who was stopped at the border and deported. Now, if you actually read that story properly and you go through it all, it was nothing to do with race or anything else. The officer who was actually interviewing him wanted his second phone, and the man said that he wasn't willing to give over his second phone. Well, he says, well, we have evidence here that you've been dealing, right? You've been dealing. And the guy said, no, it's not me. It wasn't me. So they said, well, unless you give us your PIN and other things, then you can't enter the country. And the man refused to do it. So there's a bit more to the backstory than meets the eye. So this was one point. Another one then is negative perceptions. So there have been a number of surveys. I've seen a couple of them. And this is mainly among Europeans. But I don't believe the stats they're giving here. They say over half of respondents in countries including Britain and Germany now express negative sentiments to the USA and US citizens. I think that is just overblown media propaganda. I don't think over half of people in Britain dislike or hate, or whatever words they want to use here, Americans. They're just using this because of the tariffs that have been imposed. People around the world and in different countries are upset about these tariffs. Yes, I get it. But I think the other factor is economic, so a strong US dollar. There's a lot of economic uncertainties in Europe now, and it's only going to get worse with these tariffs, because remember now, it's an extra 10% going on top. So this is going to have a lot of impacts here. And think, European travel to the US is not cheap. It's expensive when there's so many countries in Europe which are fairly cheap to travel to. I think we're just going to see more Europeans this year, while there's this uncertainty, traveling in Europe. I think it's as simple as that. I did find this bit funny from an article. It said there's countries like Canada and European nations. Hold on. Countries like Canada and various European nations. Okay, I understand what they're saying in this article. They're basically saying that Canada is the safest country and the most affordable for Europeans. That is absolute nonsense. You just look at the cost of living index for Canada. In fact, I've got loads of Canadian subscribers. Please drop a comment. Is Canada a cheap country? Absolutely no way. The amount of nonsense they are writing every day is baffling to me. But I did want another one out of the Independent here. Share my screen. China has just halted their critical rare earth minerals exports to the US. Now this is going to have an impact, I believe. So they've restricted the export of 7 rare earth minerals, and this is related to automotive, defense. This is going to cause a problem, and energy industries. Now obviously the US is going to have a lot of built up reserves for defense, but some of the things are very, very difficult to actually get hold of. There are elements here, materials needed for cars, robots, drones, missiles. This all stopped on the 4th of April. And China's playing this long game here where they're saying, well, it could be 60 days, it could be months before we actually resume the shipment. Now, one thing that I want to bring your attention to, if you look at minerals such as yttrium, dysprosium, terbium, these things are very, very difficult to get hold of. If I show you here, this is on yttrium. This is China, that's the major producer. Malaysia is also a processor, and it's a very small miner. India has moderate reserves. I mean, no one really has them. Even the USA here doesn't really have many reserves. I mean, Australia is an emerging producer, so they could help the USA, but this is going to cause some issues, these 3 metals in particular. Dysprosium then, let's have a look here. We've got a chart. Again, who controls most of it? It's China. Australia will probably help the US with this. It's an emerging source, but I don't think Malaysia's going to help. I don't think Vietnam's going to help. Potentially Canada, but they're still in development phase. So this is going to be interesting to see. And then the last one is terbium then. And we've got the chart here. China, 95% plus of the supply. Australia, again, only emerging. Malaysia is refining only. So this is going to be an issue. Vietnam is Chinese controlled anyway. So this is going to be pretty serious. So you're going to have to watch out for these three earth minerals here, especially if you are investing, especially in commodities. Just keep an eye on these. You've probably already seen the movement, but this is going to be quite interesting as we go forward. You've seen declarations of war and things like that over less than this, restricting certain minerals. Now, I'm not saying China shouldn't restrict the minerals. This is a trade war. That is what it is called. It's a trade war. You have different stages of warfare. One of them is a trade war. One of them is economic. And then you go into the sort of more, well, you know what kind. We won't use too many keywords here on YouTube. But we've also had Ray Dalio just come out, hedge fund billionaire. He's come out and he's had a lot to say. He's not very complimentary at the moment of what is happening with the tariffs. And the thing is, when Ray Dalio speaks, a lot of people tend to listen. He's put out a lot of very good books. I've read his books as well. And I tend to read his articles when he puts them out. And he's a smart man, very smart man. And he is worried here of a recession, not just on the US, but he's actually worried about a global recession if this continues. He said this is going to be so severe if it doesn't slow down and stop. He said even with these 10% tariffs, it could be as bad as the Great Depression. Now, do I think that is a little alarmist? Possibly. I'd need to see the charts and numbers that he's looking at here. But I do worry about a lot of countries right now. I think the US is in the strongest position. So I'm surprised Ray Dalio thinks it could cause this Great Depression, another Great Depression. But I definitely worry about European countries and some of the other countries because they're going to take a hit. Most of their exports are going to the US. In fact, most countries, their exports are going to the US. Now, we also had another big one that's just come out here, and this was the crash in bookings. You can see here, US import bookings are absolutely crashing off a cliff. Global TEUs, this is down 49%. Overall US imports down 64%. Overall US exports is only down 30% versus 64% on the exports. Imports from China, 64%. US exports to China is down 36%. So this won't really, I've seen some people talking about the negative impact this will have on the US. Not really. The US doesn't rely on on their exports going to China. So this is a third, just over a third of it. I don't see a major issue here at all. We've got some tables. So what is actually dropping then? Apparel and accessories down 59%. Wool fabrics and textiles 57%. Art, antiques, umbrellas and feathers 50%. Okay, well, I'm not sure how badly we need feathers and umbrellas. I'm sure we can do without certain things like this. But you can see, if you want to go through any of the charts here, that you can really get ahead of some of this stuff. Copper down 31%. And I sometimes talk about copper as a strong commodity trade, because where there is imbalances and weaknesses, you'll see some big swings here. But if we look at let's just refresh on the S&P over the last 5 days, it is up. The markets have opened at 0.3% today. Past 5 days, it is up 3.1%. On the month, it's still down 4.6%. Let's refresh the FTSE 100 for the United Kingdom then. And on the 5 days, it is up. It's up 2.1% at close, because it's already closed today now. We are in the evening in the UK, and the past 5 days is up 4.5% here. But if we look at the 1 month, actually, we're still down on a lot of companies here. Amazon's down 9%, Meta's down 12.7%, Nvidia's down over 9%. So there's still a lot of weakness. There are some strength though in consumer defensive. We have over 10% in Walmart and Costco. Who else have we got here? DG, I think that's Dollar General. We've got, who else? We've got Dollar Tree as well, up almost 14%. So there is still strength and stability. You just got to know what you're actually looking for. And I know I've had a lot of emails, but we did close the stock market promotion. That is over now. The massive sale on that is over, stock market course. Also the debt and credit courses, those promotions are over now. So we're not running any course offers at the moment because a lot of people are emailing in about this. But I will open another course offer soon if I think there's something relevant to market conditions. So let's see what else I want to talk about, and this is the UK. I want to go over to the UK here. UK bosses are slashing their hiring at the fastest rate since 2021. And this is all over the tariff fears. This is, I mean, I've never seen figures like this ever in terms of the slashing of jobs, apart from what happened during the lockdown era. I've never seen anything like this. And the wages are expected not to move. It's funny how the Bank of England's saying, well, wages probably won't move by much this year, maybe just 2 or 3%, but at least it's still a rise. No, inflation is going to be over 3. Mark my words on this. Inflation, UK inflation is going to be over 3% this year. So if the Bank of England's telling you you're getting the pay rise at 2 or 3%, they're lying, because you're not going to keep up with inflation. So you're not getting the pay rise. These are the things that they know people don't understand, so they use all these tricks to try and fool people in a way. But actually, if you look at the charts correctly, UK wages haven't really moved since 2008 when you factor in inflation and other costs. They haven't really moved in, what is that? You're talking 17 years. They haven't moved in 17 years. No wonder people are getting squeezed. This is the thing we keep talking about. People are getting absolutely squeezed. Only 1 in 10 companies are looking to invest as we move forward. And if you look at here we go, here's the export market of the UK. Let me show you this chart. This is the export market of the UK to the USA. It's 58.7 billion. It is by far the largest export market. This is going to hit GDP hard. Germany, Netherlands, Ireland, France are smaller markets here. So maybe they can take some of the slack, but I think they're going to be suffering as well. And now let me just give you a bit more context here. You look at the other things that are going on. Record number of crossings to 2025. I did a video last Monday where I showed you Birmingham. Well, this just came out in Birmingham. This clip here, if we can play it.
In Birmingham.
I'll just take the sound off here so I don't get a copyright strike. But this reporter's walking around the streets here. You can see the rubbish. All the other areas have been cleaned up. They've all been cleaned up, all these other areas. But some of these areas here, look at this. Look at the state of this. This has just been getting worse and worse, the dumping. And this isn't new, by the way. A lot of people were saying on my video in the comments, oh, this is only because of this. Some of these piles have been here for months. They did a report on it showing that all this stuff, some of this stuff here, has been here for months, way before any of these bin strikes actually took place. Is there anything else I want to talk about? Oh yeah, I thought you might find this one interesting. So this man was cautioned by the police here because someone was talking to him and he said, can you please speak clear English? So he's been spoken to about a potential hate crime. And this is the thing that worries me. These sort of things worry me. I'm sure they worry many of you as well, where this is just getting worse and worse and worse, some of these crazy events. But on that note, thank you so much for watching. I'll wrap it up there. Take care. God bless you. Thanks for subscribing here, and I'll see you next time.